Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
Welcome to the Merryn Talks Money Weekly Roundup, our debrief of the biggest stories in markets and economics. I'm Merryn Somerset Webb, editor-at-large for Bloomberg UK Wealth.
And I'm John Stepek, senior reporter and author of the Money Distilled newsletter.
Oh, John, we've been here before, you and I. Here we are, this time of year. We're not at Davos. No one's invited us, not me, not you. And yet again, we have not launched our own Memecoin.
It's true. And I can't believe we've not been invited to Davos now that it's not really relevant. I mean, I'd hoped they'd been scraping the barrel by now.
You'd have thought they have enough empty seats they could get the likes of us in. But no, I tell you what, I am more disappointed about the Memecoin thing, to be honest. I mean, I wouldn't expect that you and I would launch a MTM coin and suddenly be multi-billionaires, but it'd be quite nice if we could launch one. And okay, not in the top 25 richest people in the world, but maybe in the top couple of thousand, I could have done with that.
MTM's got a ring to it because it sounds a bit like MMT.
Oh, it is, and that would be kind of the same thing, wouldn't it? It's in the same vibe.
Yeah.
The same old money for nothing vibe.
Exactly, and it combines two of our fan bases, MMT people and crypto people, in one
That would be so great. They could write their hate mail in a single email. Two not required. Okay, listen, we're tangenting again, and there may be some people out there who don't know about TrumpCoin. They won't know what we're talking about. They might know about Davos. We're not going to dwell on that. As you know, we are. We're going to come back to that. But why are we talking about meme coins, and why am I upset that I haven't taken the opportunity to be one of the 25 richest people in the world?
I guess this is all about Trump's meme coin. This is turning into an episode of I Get News for You. It's Trump managed to launch his own cryptocurrency just before he got inaugurated. And it went up a lot, and then it went down quite a bit whenever his wife launched her own cryptocurrency and stole some of the money from his, basically.
What is it, John? You've got to stop right here, because you're using that word. You're calling it a cryptocurrency. It's not a currency. It's not a thing. It's not anything. It's totally intangible. There's no way to catch hold of this. It is a nothing. It is a nothing.
It's a vibe. It's a token. It's a way, I don't know, actually. I mean, the meme coin element is the stupidest bit of cryptocurrency, and I realise a lot of people will think that is really saying something. But the meme coins are basically, I mean, the very first meme coin, the most famous meme coin at least, is Dogecoin. And Dogecoin was literally set up as a joke. It was meant to be poking fun at the whole concept of cryptocurrency. And of course, the joke...
John, I have to interrupt you here to say that I'm conflicted here, because I do own Dogecoin.
I mean, yes, conflict of interest. So if Merryn,
which I have to say for a long time, I called it Doggy Coin until some young person corrected me.
Doggy Coin's good as well. I mean, that's it, because it's got a picture of a very cute Sheena Ibu quizzical dog.
Exactly. Anyway, sorry. Doggy Coin was the first one, as you say.
Yeah, and the point is, the founder sort of said this is a joke, and he basically said this is a joke to point out what a nonsense all of this crypto stuff is. And the problem is the joke really is on him, because Doggy Coin or Dogecoin is basically the top meme coin. And at one point, everyone was getting kind of excited because it looked as if TrumpCoin might, close the gap between it and Dogecoin. Let me try and explain the difference between it and Bitcoin for people who buy into at least some of this. So,
I have that too, by the way.
Yes, yes, but I know, well done. I've got none of these things. I am so lazy. Sorry, Bitcoin is limited in supply. As long as you believe the maths, etc., it's limited in supply. You need computers to do the equivalent of mining in the cloud to get out of there by doing very hard sums. You actually need to spend a lot of money these days to dig out a new piece of Bitcoin. And so the idea is that it's kind of like digital gold in that it's a limited supply, and it's like a bearer asset. So if you hold it, you can pass it to someone else without going through any kind of middle person or anything like that. So that's the idea. Bitcoin's kind of like digital gold or digital cash or something like that. It's not much use as a currency because the price is very volatile, but if you were in Venezuela and you want to get money out to somewhere else, then it's probably a better thing to own for that short period of time than something like gold, which you would have to physically smuggle out. So I can see that there's a point to it. Dogecoin, the meme coins are just, I mean, there's no limit to the number you can print. There's literally nothing behind it except betting that it will go up because someone else will pay more for it. It's kind of like greater fool theory in practice. No one's even pretending they've got a purpose. It's basically pure gambling, but not even gambling with a kind of game behind it.
Is it also really a live? But is it also a live opinion poll?
I mean, you could, although I suppose the thing with that is you're kind of then, that's like trying to find a bolt-on use after it's launched. I mean, no one's got an opinion on Sheena Ibu's. I mean, or do they? I mean, it could be quite good. You're right. If Trump had a meme coin and say Biden had a meme coin or whoever takes over as Democrat after him had the meme coin, that could be quite interesting. People are willing to put their money behind the idea that someone's going to become more popular enough so that their supporters are going to back them. And then it becomes, I guess, like football scarves or memorabilia or something like that. But beyond that, it's pure belief based. And not only that, I may be wrong about this, but the issuer, I believe, can just issue as many as they want. So then there is not much control on what happens to you as a minority shareholder in these things.
Yeah. So there we go. MTM and MMT. The connection is clear. Thanks, John. And by the way, everybody, this time next year, John and I, we will have our own meme coin, right? Although I used to say that about NFTs. I used to say we were going to launch our own NFT and everyone would give us lots of money for that. We didn't do that either. We're just going to stay poor, aren't we? So be it.
We're going to have fun staying poor.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely having fun. Right, onwards to something real, something very real. Yesterday, or rather earlier this week, should I say, was the first vote in the Saba saga. Now, if you don't know about the Saba saga, please go back and listen to earlier podcasts about this. But in a nutshell, American activist investor Boaz Weinstein, who is CIO and founder of Saba Capital, has come into the UK investment trust market, bought big stakes in 7 trusts, the miserable 7 as he calls them, and has called emergency general meetings to try and oust the boards and take over the assets to run in his own way, whatever that way may be. This week was the first vote, Herald Investment Trust, and it didn't go quite as planned for Weinstein. He lost the vote very decisively. And it was interesting, actually. One of the things about this whole saga is, will retail investors, will ordinary people turn out to vote? Either way. Either way, and when we've been talking about it, John, we haven't obviously been encouraging people to vote either way. What we have been saying is get out there and vote. This is a great test of shareholder democracy. And if you want this trust to continue to exist, get out there and vote for that to happen. And that is exactly what they did. So shareholder turnout was around double what it normally is, and well over 60% of the votes went to the Herald board, and things will now carry on as before. Is that a reasonable summary?
Yep, that is a reasonable summary. And yeah, it is. It's really, really good to see that people turned out because it does, it would have been really depressing if such a consequential vote had seen the kind of usual turnout for these things.
And so the vote was actually, it was 65 to 35. So that's it's quite a defeat if you think that Weinstein holds, I can't remember quite how much of that trust, 29%?
Yeah, and I mean...
Around there.
Yeah.
So pretty much everybody who wasn't with Saba, who wasn't part of Saba, voted with the board.
Yeah, and I mean, that made sense because, Saba, Boaz Weinstein himself has pointed out that no vote is a vote for Saba. He pointed that out on the podcast, which I have thought that Saba's tactics here are sort of interesting in that if I was relying on shareholder apathy, I probably wouldn't have gone public quite as much as they have. But then I guess if you're, having to kind of retort to the things coming out of the investment trusts themselves, then you can't really avoid it. But it is interesting It's not the way to make apathy work in your favour, I don't think.
Yeah, so I think he should be admired for that. I mean, when I was muttering about it on social media yesterday, I said that, we should be grateful to all parties here. A lot of people will be pleased that Saba have been defeated. They see them as, American invader, etc. But I think that we should be very pleased that he's drawn attention to a lot of the problems with investment trusts, made boards start having a new type of conversation, but also, crucially, gone out there and drummed up the retail vote. He hasn't won them over. He didn't make a good enough case for Herald investors to want to move over to him, but he got them going. He got them out there and he got everyone voting. And I think that's a triumph for him. It's a triumph for Herald, and it's a triumph for the platforms who facilitated the retail vote. So, I'm pretty happy with this. It's interesting to look at what's going to happen next. There's 6 votes to go. Katie Potts, who runs Herald, obviously has a great support base, lots of fans. She's done really well for thousands and thousands of people over many, many years. So she's got a strong personal support base. And it'll be interesting to see if the other trusts have quite the same thing going for them. So there's that to watch. And then, of course, the other thing is to watch what happens now to the Saba stake. Because if they are still holding a lot of this trust, what do they do next? So things to watch, all coming up in the next couple of weeks. And John and I are completely obsessed with this story. So you will be seeing us talking about it again and again and again.
There's just one thing I would add is that I think it's also really good that people have turned out for Herald, because then if the vote does go Saba's way with the other trusts, they can't just point to lazy retail shareholders. If it goes against some of these trusts, then there's a reason, and it's a more fundamental reason.
No, that's very true. And that was one of the reasons I was so pleased there was such a big turnout, because nobody, as you say, no one can stand back and go, well, that wasn't fair. That wasn't fair. The turnout was so low, etc. Like we did in things like, well, pretty much every actual election that happens, everyone looks at it and goes, well, that doesn't count. Turnout was so low. If you don't vote, it's effectively a vote for blah, blah, blah. And everyone disagrees with every result for everything because not enough people turned out. Now, you can't do that here. Good job, everyone. Right, on to people who aren't doing a good job. Well, hello, Rachel Reeves. Rachel sat down with our editor-in-chief, John Micklethwaite, in Davos this week, and they had quite an interesting conversation, actually. We both watched it, didn't we? Because, just to be clear, we are not in Davos. We are not in Davos. Hey, John, next year, take us with you. Take us with you. We like skiing, don't we? We like skiing. I like skiing. We like private jets. We like hobnobbing with important people. Oh, God, they're not there anymore. Most of the important people are there, I think. Donald Trump isn't there. What's the point? Anyway, so John's there, and I'm sure he's having a lovely time. And he's been interviewing Rachel Reeves, where we're sitting over here in the UK waiting for the storm to come in tomorrow. What did you find most interesting about their conversation, John?
Honestly, I think, actually there was 2. One is that Rachel Reeves came dangerously close to hinting that Brexit might have some benefits.
Oh, that was my favourite bit too.
Yeah, that was great. Halfway through the conversation, she sort of said that, we can be more nimble on artificial intelligence and financial regulation.
There are opportunities outside of the European Union. Opportunities, for example, in AI, where we have a very different regulatory approach to AI compared to the European Union's approach. That makes Britain a more attractive place for AI and tech companies to invest than in other European countries. We should take advantage of that. We should shout about it, and we should get that investment in.
And I thought, wow, that is the first time we've probably heard anything like that from a mainstream politician since 2016. Although that's unfair, because Nigel Farage is a mainstream politician now.
Yes, he is. He is. Yeah. I mean, she was talking about AI in that context, wasn't she? And that was interesting because yesterday, well, not yesterday.
It wasn't just that. It was the rules around finance regs as well.
Yes, that's true too. That's true too. And this week as well, the conversation has come up, not there, but actually a little bit there, but in other conversations about the UK possibly rejoining some kind of customs union, etc. And she's been relatively clear so far that that's not going to happen. So maybe finally, we have a political class that is beginning to see that there is a whopping great Brexit premium, and in particular no regulation premium attached to Brexit. So yeah, I agree with you. That was my favourite bit too.
Yeah, and I mean, other than that, I thought I think the interesting kind of big picture thing is the tone shift. It's pretty clear to me that Rachel Reeves has gone from sort of feeling secure in her position to feeling really quite worried about it, and worried about it to the point where she's willing to kick off some really difficult conversations with elements of her own cabinet elements of the cabinet, because, runways versus net zero is going to be a hell of an interesting conversation. It was actually a Bloomberg scoop that they were looking at the runways. And I suppose what's interesting is that's quite, obviously that's pretty political and quite controversial, but at the same time, it's not like Rachel Reeves pushed back on that. She didn't say, there's no way we're going to approve a third runway at Heathrow. Instead, she was very much, right, we can't keep blocking this stuff. And actually, Keir Starmer came out this morning and said something very similar in a slightly facile way on Twitter. We're for the builders and not the blockers. So we'll see how much of that translates into actual action, but it's definitely a tone shift.
Yeah, well, the phrase that's been reported all over the place is when she said the answer can't always be no.
And that's been the problem in Britain for a long time, that when there was a choice between something that would grow the economy and sort of anything else always won.
Which is interesting, given that certainly in opposition, I felt that from Labour the answer always was no.
It was. 2018, they all voted again. Yeah. Not Rachel Reeves, to be fair. She's probably one of the more consistent members of the cabinet, but Keir Starmer voted against it.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so the really interesting bit there is going to be if a lot of these projects come up against the net zero problem, and AI in particular. And one of the things that Keir Starmer has been talking about and was talked about a certain amount in this interview, again, is AI. And we know how energy intensive AI is, and we know that the UK teeters on all sorts of difficult energy brinks at the moment. So you add in that, and then you add in talking about new runways and infrastructure projects and all these kinds of things. They are all in direct conflict with the idea that we can reach net zero by 2030, which of course we can't. But, there is part of the political class that continue to pretend that we can. So you look at all this and you begin to think, at some point, we are going to have to dial back on this net zero business.
I think it depends on how much pressure she's under. I mean, I think that she's now in fear for her job and she'll say what it takes. Now, whether or not she'll get the backing. But, I mean, I think the other key point to remember, because a lot of people kept talking about how, she'll get she'll get kicked out or reshuffled. But the problem is, if Keir Starmer does that, then it's kind of on him. And the precedent for prime ministers getting rid of their chancellors is not good for prime ministers. So she does have that very strong safety net underneath her. I think that this is going to represent quite a big fight. As far as the net zero stuff goes, the only question I've got in my mind is whether we need to end up having some kind of energy event, which is kind of a nice word for blackout, before the mood actually shifts. And they can, and it gets to the point where it's no longer tenable. But I don't know. We just need to see what happens.
I don't know either. I mean, I think you're right that an event of that type would do it, but also the miserable grind of having the highest industrial electricity prices in the developed world. In the end, that has to make, if growth is what you want, and growth is, as she keeps saying, our number one mission, it's all we want. I'd like her to say growth per head, by the way, but maybe we'll get to that one day. If that's your overall mission, she knows, she's not stupid. She knows that is impossible with energy prices as high as they are. So I think that's the thing to watch, the interaction between Rachel Reeves' insistence that growth is her number one mission and these incredibly high industrial electricity prices. They cannot work together. It's not possible. Thanks for listening to this week's Merryn Talks Money debrief. Do get in touch if you're launching a Memecoin of some kind. You'd like us to help you promote it. We are all over that. If you like our show, rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, be sure to follow me and John on X or Twitter. I'm at Merryn SW and John_Stepek. This episode was produced by Summer Sadi, production and sound design by Moses Andam. Questions and comments on this show and all our shows are always welcome, as I say, particularly about your meme coins. Our show email is merrynmoney@bloomberg.net. Brendan isn't in there. We're going to get complaints. Put Brendan back.